started. Hi there, welcome to the Kingston Police Services Board meeting number 22-04, Thursday, February 17th, 2022. And to get this started, can I get a disclosure of conflict of interest? Okay, nope. Can I get an approval of the agenda? Jeff, Bridget, great. Can I get an adoption of the minutes from the meeting held on January 20th, 2022? Jeff? I need someone else. Good, Christian, thank you. And then we'll start with the communications. Maybe if I could ask the chief if she'd like to speak to the following communications received by the Ministry of the Solicitor General.
Absolutely. The first one is with respect to annual reporting requirements for the violent crime linkage analysis system and case management. So this is really information reminding police services to submit their annual reports on these two items to the ministry. And they're due by February the 28th of this month, and our criminal investigation division looks after submitting these reports, so that will be done. And the next on the agenda is the regarding the Police Record Checks Reform Act, and this act is intended to remove barriers for volunteers. The bill received royal assent on December 2nd, 2021. And is targeted to be brought into force in the spring of 2022 on a date yet to be determined. Amendments to this PRCRA include an establishment for the definition of volunteer. In addition, the amendments would require police to conduct and provide the results of criminal record checks and judicial matters checks for volunteers at no charge, and provide up to 5 free copies of the results. It also expands the Lieutenant Governor and Council's regulations, making up the authority to prescribe how police services will conduct police record checks for volunteers and how long the police record checks could be relied upon. And there's no questions on it with respect to that. The next is regarding the updated guidance for first responders, integrated testing, case contact, and outbreak management regarding the Omicron surge. And in this matter, Dr. Moore has issued an updated interim guidance on integrated testing in this area. First responders, including the police personnel, are now prioritized for PCR testing if symptomatic to ensure a quicker return to work. So that's been helpful for the policing community. Number 4 is regarding the OIPRD statistics, and it's really updating us on the OIPRD website that there's a service by service page that provides statistical information to the public and contains the 2021 statistics. It will be updated annually. And the number 5 is regarding the Safer and Vital Communities grant call for applications and reissued on February 1st, 2022. These applications are being received from the community-based not-for-profit incorporated organizations and First Nations under the Safer and Vital Communities grant. So the theme is preventing cybercrime through community collaboration, with priority areas being hate crimes, human trafficking, and fraud. So although police services are not eligible for this grant, but letters of support to community partners for their applications is integral. So this is the due date for this is March the 4th. At 4 p.m. So that has been passed on to community partners.
And Jimmy, I ask, is this grant new?
It comes through every year.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Number 6 is regarding the Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Transfer Payment Program, the review that's being done. And an independent consultant was hired by the ministry in the fall of 2020, named Goss Gilroy Incorporated. They conducted a review of the court security and prisoner transportation in Ontario, including the design of the payment program. Currently, the ministry provides funding to municipalities to assist them in offsetting costs associated with this. This includes the criminal justice digital design, which is the digitizing criminal case records and connecting IT systems to ensure data flows seamlessly from the police, prosecutions, courts, and corrections. And it also includes the criminal justice video strategy, which is designed to increase the use of video technology for most types of in-custody court appearances. This reduces the need to transport accused between the correctional institutions and courthouses. So lots of stakeholders had input via interviews, surveys, online feedback. And then now that this review is complete, one important point is that there are going to be no changes to the overall funding envelope for the grant program in 2022. So that'll remain the same for in our budget. There've been a few issues that have been identified in this review. And then we'll be looking forward to some next steps as to what that might include. Number 7 is regarding the revised contact information for firearms data submission under the Police Services Act. And this is a reminder for police services that they shall file a year-end report on firearms that have come into the possession of the police services during the preceding year, so for 2021. And that personal information is only required in instances where individuals are under investigation, charged with, or found guilty of an offense. So Kingston Police have submitted their report. And then dated February the 1st of 2022, there's a supplementary training on the Missing Persons Act. And so this is just advising police agencies that there is this supplemental training video on the Missing Persons Act that's available on the Ontario Police College website, OPC. And it was created by the OPP's Ontario Centre for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains, and provides additional guidance and situational examples for officers regarding the application and use of this act. And that has been shared within our organization. Number 9 is regarding the new Mandatory Blood Testing Act regulations. This is an opportunity for police services to provide feedback on regulations related to the new Mandatory Blood Testing Act. If approved, these amendments will allow for faster access to information that can help personnel decide the best way to reduce the chances of getting sick should they be exposed to a serious disease. Yes.
Thanks, Chief McNeely. I actually would like to take one step back and ask a question regarding the training. So when training opportunities are available like that, like what's the process to ensure that enough officers perhaps take that training? Is it somebody in charge of that?
Yes, well, what happens in this particular matter, that this has also been updated on our missing persons general order. So this training is there to be able to, not only does our order updated and sent out to everybody, but this link has been sent out to everybody. So at this point in time, it hasn't been tracked, but it can be tracked through an information management system, which everyone could sign off on, and then to show that they've participated in that. So, you know, when we've got our investigative units, such as the Criminal Investigations Division, which do a lot of our missing persons reports, they will be viewing this as well.
Right. So our human resource staff, they keep track. You said they could track it?
Through an information management report, yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing more about that. Thanks.
Okay. The next item is the building a case against hate. And this training was developed in partnership with the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal and the Ontario Police College. And the Kingston Police had a number of our members attending this virtual conference that was held. That's already been held, I believe, on the date. I just haven't got the date written down, but we did have members. I think it was this past week that it was held. But I know with our core unit and with respect to our officer, that's our diversity officer, he's specially trained with hate crimes. And so I know that that he in particular has taken this as well. The next.
Your microphone's off.
Thank you. The next item is the Missing Persons Act annual report. And again, it's also talking about the training supports that are available, but this is a reminder for police services to report annually on their use of urgent demands under the Act. that police services boards are required to make this report public. So the report is due to the board on April the 1st of 2022, and the board must make this report public on their website by June the 1st. The annual report is due to the ministry by June the 1st as well. And again, this is something that our criminal investigations unit will provide that report and pass it on to you. I think that takes care of our public safety items under the Ministry of the Solicitor General.
Jared, you're on mute.
Thanks. Next is the Canadian Association of Police Governance. So I'll just note the following communications. If there's any questions, then we'll just we'll talk about it then. So there was an email for the conference host proposals due March 31st. There's a report for defunding the police for our from Halifax. It was a pretty in-depth report, and it was very interesting. There's an email for promotional opportunity for members to the CAPG bi-monthly community news, and then to renew the CAPG membership renewal. So I'll need a motion for that, if I could, to have that important. Yep, good. Thank you, Jimmy, Bridget. All in favor? Lovely. Thank you. Lori, you got that?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to go into the Ontario Human Rights Commission. You want to speak to that, Angie?
Yes, so this is about the International Day of Education, transforming education to be equitable for all. So since 2018, the world has observed January 24th as the International Day of Education, and this year's theme was changing course, transforming education. So it has outlined a number of challenges. In 2012, the Ontario Human Rights Commission intervened in Moore versus British Columbia, the rights of all students to have equal opportunity to learn and read. And they outlined in 2018, they released an updated policy on accessible education for students with disabilities and made recommendations for improving outcomes for students with disabilities. And then 2021, they wrote to the Kindergarten to 12 Education Standards Development Committee and the Post-Secondary Educational Standards Committee on their recommendations under the Accessibility for Ontario's and Disabilities Act. In 2022, they will be releasing the Right to Read report. So it's really updating what the Human Rights Commission has been doing.
Very good. And then the statement, oh, never mind. Okay. Next, the City of Kingston emailed January 18th on behalf of the Director of Financial Services regarding the requirement to report remuneration of council members and other appointed by the municipality. Okay, saw that. And then the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards, Zone 2 update meeting schedules. Next is delegations. There are none. And next are the reports. We're going to get into the reports, and I'm going to ask you to do that. First being secondary activities.
Yes, so this report is dated February the 2nd on the 2021 disclosures and decisions on secondary activities by our members. So there were 2 applications in 2021, both of which have been approved. And as mentioned there, the nature of these activities included municipal arena caretaking and real estate activities.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? No. Public sector's Salary Disclosure Act.
Yes, so the board's required to file a report under the Public Sector Salary Disclosure Act whenever it meets the funding requirements set out in Section 2 of the Act, which is $1 million. So in 2021, our organization received grant money totaling just over $1.5 million. Therefore, the board will be required to file the Record of Employees 2021 salaries and benefits, which will form part of the Salary Disclosures 2021 on the Ministry of Finance website on or about March 31st. Just wanted to again thank the province of Ontario for the grant funding opportunities that we've received in supporting our community safety and well-being. So that is well underway, and Lori has that in hand, but that will be disclosed.
Okay, and then the 2021 year-end use of force report.
So, so between January 1st and December 31st, 2021, we have had 91 separate incidents where use of force reports have been submitted. One of the, and this has been an increase from 2020 where we had 43 incidents. One of the main drivers in this increase is that we've seen an increase in emergency response team reports submitted, and that's based on an increased focus by our drug units and street crime on drug trafficking and drug investigations where search warrants are required, and therefore the emergency response unit are utilized. So out of the 39 team reports where the emergency response unit submitted a report, 25 of them were related to drug search warrants, 5 were firearms related search warrants, and 9 were related to high risk areas arrests. So I can highlight some examples of what that might look like in terms of our emergency. Pardon me?
Correctly.
Okay, so some examples of high-risk arrests included a fatal motor vehicle collision where the subject fled the scene to a residence with numerous firearms, where there were numerous firearms, so our emergency response unit attended and the subject was arrested without incident. Another was an emergency response unit conducted a high-risk vehicle stop to arrest a violent wanted person known to carry firearms. Another example was where they responded to a barricaded male, possibly armed with a handgun, who was taken into custody. There was also a dynamic entry into a residence where information was received where a male was holding a female and armed with some firearms. So those are some examples of the highlights of our emergency response unit and their what they've been doing. I can say that our in terms of our firearms discharged, they're all relating to animals, so there was 21 of those, ranging from deers, raccoons to livestock, that kind of thing. So those were the only indications there. Really, I'm highlighting the fact that in our use of force reports, you know, we really, when you look at all the number of calls for service that we do in a year, responding to over 48,000 in a year, we really use our use of force reports are very little. So under 2.2% of our reports are where use of force is used, where we're required to report.
Bridget, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that there was also an increase in focus, like the numbers have gone up, but you also mentioned there was an increase in focus. I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit.
In terms of our drug investigation?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So as I've mentioned, you know, over the past year, we have done increased focus, not in simple possession, but certainly in the trafficking, importing, exporting of drugs. So the higher end investigations, and that's been for our drug unit and our street crimes unit. So as a result, more search warrants are utilized and executed. And when we do that, there's firearms tend to be involved in these incidents, and therefore we utilize our emergency response unit as the entry.
Thanks for that. It helps understand the context and why it's gone up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next report is our year-end budget, which we have John here to speak about.
Hi, John.
Good afternoon. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. It's my pleasure to present the board with our financial results for fiscal year 2021. Everybody has the statement in front of them. The total net expenses of $41,485,000 compared to a budget of $41,162,000. And unfortunately, that resulted in a deficit of $323,316 this past fiscal year. I'd like to point out this is the first deficit we've had in my 13 years with this agency, And the source of this deficit rests solely with the university district activities that we saw in September and October last year. Before I continue, I want you to know I've reviewed the year-end results twice with the city treasurer. It was agreed our books closed consistently with past practices years, and all appropriate income expenses were recorded and per generally accepted accounting principles. And all accruals that we made were based on past practices and were all deemed appropriate. This deficit reflects the $994,409 we spent on the university district street activities. We had budgeted about $90,000 for potential street activities at Queens. Consequently, we overspent that budget by $904,000. At year end, I did accrue the $310,000 that we do expect to receive from Queens, and that would bring our unbudgeted expenses down to $594,000. Of this amount, we were able to reduce our operational expenses by about $271,000. So ultimately ending up with a deficit of $323,000. Any questions on that before I continue?
Bridget.
Yes.
Obviously, this begs the question how Queens is responding to this. And I know there have been conversations, including, I believe, the city treasurer as well. And I just wonder how those conversations with Queens are going and if we can expect to receive a check from them.
Well, we did accrue the $310,000 at the end of January. That wasn't paid yet, but I know Desiree was following up. When I spoke to the city treasurer about this deficit, the city is in a position to cover that deficit. They do have that revenue coming in from the tickets that were issued. And at this point, I'm not sure exactly where they're at on collecting those, but that money is coming in as well.
Right, so you're expecting that we may be able to receive the 323 something thousand outstanding kind of thing.
I did accrue the $310,000 on our books, so it's there. So I have no doubt.
No, but I guess I just have my eyes on our deficit, which in reality, actually, if we're thinking about only Queens, if I followed you correctly, there is actually 594,000. So how much of that are we expecting to still perhaps receive?
My understanding is that there's no other funding coming from Queens to cover that last year. There is some money that should be recognized from the tickets that were issued.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. Okay. As I continue on here with the results, I'm just going to hit the more notable items. Revenue and cost recovery was favorable by $421,660. We had budgeted $4,107,000, and we actually saw $4,528,000. Some of the notable items in there, of course, is the $310,000 accrual for the money we expect to receive from Queens. There was a CSP grant of about $100,000, which was not budgeted, that was approved after the fact that we received. We did receive $37,500 in donations to support the horse, the Murney. So that was recorded as well. Of course, that was not budgeted. Wow. Revenue on the background checks, that was down by $124,000. We had the pandemic, we've seen reduced activity at the front desk, but so we were off about $124,000 there. There was also some additional cost recovery on some of the secondments. There was one there about $90,000, which we had not budgeted. So I think we have 6 people seconded now. So those were the key aspects that saw the revenue come in about $421,000 above budget. Moving on to expenses, our total expenses of $46,014,000 compared to a budget of $45,269,000. So we were unfavorable by $744,000. Breaking that down, wages and salaries were unfavorable by $1.1 million. And if I delve into that, you'll see that overtime was unfavorable by $395,000. We had spent $437,500 on overtime at Queens. We had budgeted $375,000, so that pushed that variance to $362,000 unfavorable. We did have 3 major criminal investigations during the year. We spent about $60,000 on those. And on the COVID actions, there was about 46,000 on overtime spent there. So that contributed. Base wages were unfavorable by 538,000. We did save through the year by hiring 4th class, but this was offset by payouts to people retiring. We do have, when people retire, they do get some sick bank payout, and that was offset there. Part-time wages were unfavorable by 70,000. During the year, we had quite a few civilians retire, so we ended up backfilling with some part-time people until we were able to replace them and hire the full-time. Fringe benefits, although they were unfavorable by 60,000, we had spent 7.6 million, 7,698,000 against a budget of 7,635. The 60,000, we saw the rates come in a bit higher on the health and dental costs after we did the budget, so I can link that to those. On supplies and materials, 5,695,000 against a budget of 6,092,000. We were favorable by 397,000. A few items there, and I won't be able to say this much. We were actually favorable on fuel by 21,000. Although the price went up, we were seeing less usage with the pandemic and lockdowns. I am concerned going forward next year on that line. Education and training was favorable at 82,000. Again, with the pandemic and the lockdowns, more training was done online. And travel was favorable by 77,000. There was less trips. Our investigative services was unfavorable by 409,000. This is a line that picks up the Queens because we'd spent the 557,000. We didn't do as many investigations last year, so there was some savings there to help offset, to bring that 557 we spent in Queens down to the 409 unfavorable on investigative services. So that helped a bit there. Contracted services were 345,000 favorable. We knew we were running a deficit and we did everything we could to offset that deficit. So we did pull back on a number of projects that we could get by for another year without doing. And so we were able to save some money on that line. Our professional services were 137 favorable. We had a couple of cases come to completion and we spent less than what we had actually set up and accrued for that in prior years. And some of these go back quite a few years. So we were able to bring that back onto the books to help offset the deficit. Utilities were favorable by 67,000. As you know, we have the solar panels here now, and actually we didn't get any hydro bills for 2 months as they're sorting through, but I did accrue November, December. It'll be interesting to see as we go through next year, the full impact of those solar panels now that they're on and running. But anyways, we did end the year with 67,000 favorable rather on utilities. And supplies, we were 97,000 favorable as well. We really clamped down on some of the purchase of supplies, trying to save some money to offset that deficit. So that net 744,000 unfavorable on operating costs. Well, I should mention the contribution to reserves. We showed 33,000 unfavorable. Any of the money we recaptured on sale of vehicles, some of the vehicles we got rid of this earlier in the year, the market was quite strong. We saw some gains of 33,000 and the city moved that into our capital reserve. Hence on the contribution to reserves, we're showing some unfavorability of 33,000. That's why that happened. So it wasn't a case of us spending more money. And that's where we finished the year. Are there any questions? Yes.
Do you, so as far as the example of Queens and the costs, do you budget that for this year coming and the next year?
No, all we have in for this coming year is the 90,000, which we've budgeted past years. So there is risk on that line if we end up incurring the same, or we see the same thing happen the coming year.
Yeah. I can't, like, has anyone done anything to have that change? Like, is there any committees? Is there, I know there's talk, but it would be, can you just assume that it's going to be very similar this year?
This past year was an anomaly compared to the few years before that. I don't know, Angie, I think they are working on a committee with Queens, are they not?
We've got a Queen's task force, as the Queen's has initiated a task force to work together as a community to look at this and come up with ideas, not just from the students themselves, but from community members, City of Kingston, first responders are invited to the table. So that's just initiated. I think that was brought to light.
So yeah, it's interesting because it really is such a large cost, you know.
If we
Bridget?
budgeted based on this past experience, we'd have to add 2% increase to our budget, which is a fair bit.
Mhm. Yeah. Christian,
Just a question on the mounted unit. There was a commitment made in terms of pledges. I'm just interested to see what amount of that money was actually received by December 31st, whether those targets were met.
We did record, was it 36,500? The city did have that money collected and did credit our books, and that's part of that's in our revenues and cost recovery, the 36,500. I'm sorry, 37,500.
I believe
And
the
like-
target number was higher than that. Sorry, Chief.
And likewise for next year. So it was for the 2-year process so that it's there. Yes.
And I do believe, Angie, they do have more money collected
Yes,
ahead of the 30 that will go towards the next year.
absolutely. It's collected. Yeah.
Thank you.
well done. Christian, are you okay with that? Yeah, good. Bridget, you were next.
Right, Jared. Well, following up from your question, it seems that we're working kind of always backwards. Of course, we don't know the costs of Queen's parties until after the fact. But moving forward, has there been any kind of exploration of an agreement, like a memorandum of understanding that if it actually passes, if the expenses go beyond our budget of 90-something thousand, that Queen's will commit to picking up the tab?
Angie, I'm not aware of anything, Angie.
Those are definitely the conversations moving forward, and I'm sure that are going to be part of the conversations on this task force as part of that. I know that with the new regulations in the Police Services Act, you know, they aren't in force yet, but there's an area in there that talks about cost recovery, the ability of cost recovery. And so that's one avenue, of course, that's an exploration for chiefs of police that have really advocated for that, and to have that ability there. So I'm hoping that that's something that will be of assistance as well.
Bridget, you're good? Jimmy? You're on mute, Jimmy. Sorry.
My question is similar with the Bridget, but also maybe as a second question on this. Can we start communication with the Queens now in the beginning of year to talk about upcoming challenges for this year, homecoming, so we don't have to get any surprise? And like you said, we can negotiate with them, okay, that is our budget. If anything go above and beyond, how we can recover that from them. That's the one question. The other one is stating here in this report 60.7K incurred for 3 major criminal investigation. What kind of investigation was this? What was the 3 major incident in Kingston?
I think, Angie, 2 of them were homicides, were they not?
Yes, that's correct. There was a number of homicide and investigations that have occurred. Another high-end investigation that was done that covered the costs there.
Okay. All right, and so would you make sure that communication is starting with the Queens and the task force? Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your time, John. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
And then The new business would be about the board meeting dates. They're gonna be the third week. Pardon?
I think we need a motion for the requested board authorization secretary to renew the board membership with the.
I did that. We did that.
Okay.
We voted on that before. I was just out of
Okay.
line.
Okay, all right.
Sorry, Jimmy. Yeah, I was too excited about that motion. We just had to get it done.
All right.
So there's the board meeting dates. I think it's the third Thursday of every month, except in October because of the municipal election. So I'll need a motion for that. Bridget, Christian, Jimmy, all in favor? Awesome, great, okay. And then Christian, to your persistence, guess what happened? Lori's going to explain what she's done and done very, very well. Lori, you have the floor.
Well, we are going to be able to expand our pages on the website. We have our public meetings, agendas, reports, minutes. We will also have, we have already the policies, bylaws, procedures, etc. of the board available. We have a new delegation form that can be filled online and it automatically is emailed to me. So this can come live. I can send out a link. We also have the recordings, not only on the expanded web pages, but also we have our own YouTube channel now, and I put the link in the report for you. And with your permission and your motion, I'd like to launch it the first of the week.
Okay, so may I have a
Right
motion
away.
for that? All right, there, Jimmy, yeah.
That's a good job, Lori. That's
Well,
very
listen,
good.
thank you. I had a lot of help from Constable Mac and the IT team, believe me.
Well,
Okay,
we
very
appreciate
good.
all of you.
So let's have that motion. Jimmy, you had your hand up.
Yeah.
Anyone else to get this live? Christian, thank you very much. All in favor?
I just have a discussion, point of discussion, Chair.
Yeah, please. Sorry, I didn't see your hand there because of the yellow wall.
Sorry.
It's kind of camouflage. Go ahead, Christian.
How far back we can reasonably go, Lori, in terms of putting up reports? So there's reports that would be disclosed during past public meetings, use of force reports, budget reports, and so forth. So things that would have been presented publicly anyways at the board, but that we can build a bit of a, rather than just starting today, that we can go back a little bit and build a bit of a record, but I also want to be reasonable in how far back we go on this. Any suggestions?
Absolutely. I have 2020 and 2021 posted now. I would suggest by looking at other boards, we could go back quite easily. We have the records and very well kept records for 5 years or more if you wish. It would be at the board's discretion how far they'd like to go back.
I mean, 3 years, I think is okay.
3 years?
I mean, that's just my opinion. Others can weigh in on that. What were you thinking, Christian, when you posed the question?
I didn't have a particular, maybe for the duration or something like that of the current chief's tenure or something like that. But I don't really had a particular sort of date in mind. I just think for even for public research purposes, as you know, like use of force, for instance, stats can be very difficult to get publicly. Winnipeg and the OPP are the only two forces that I know that post them in a way that you can actually, as a researcher, pull them relatively straightforward and easily. So, just for purpose of transparency and stuff. So
Yeah.
Whatever the board thinks is reasonable and also without causing too much work and effort for Lori here.
Bridget, would you like to weigh in on that? I saw your hand. Mute.
Sure, thanks. I have a question for Lori. So let's say we have 3 years up on the website, so it's easy to search those 3 years. And if a researcher, as Christian suggests, would like to go further back, would it be relatively easy for you to pull those documents up and if it is that easy, we could always have something on there. Please contact Lori Sargent for any further documents if needed. that kind of thing.
Sure, we can do that. What I've been doing is, as you know, the agendas are all scanned in one huge package. So I've been pulling each report out of the packages for the past couple of years, and I'm happy to do that up to 5 to 6 years and have that available, whether you want it on the website or whether you just want it as an electronic file that I have available to the public. It's totally the board's call.
In that case, just a couple of years is fine, or 3 years is just fine, and then and also have kind of a note like that for further information.
I think 3 years is good, and then other 2 years, like she said, she can prepare the e-links, and or if anybody requested, they will be able to get it.
That's
Okay,
good. So we can have 2019, 2020, 2021. And then we can always see.
can we
if there's
vote on that
demand.
right now, Lori?
Sure.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
do
I think
that.
that's a great idea. If we have a note in there that further back data could
20.
be available, contact the secretary.
Yeah, let's do that too. So can I get a motion on having the 2019 moving forward on the website, and a link that could ask for more information going beyond 2019 or before 2019, link to Lori's email.
Yep.
Can I have
What can be
Christian?
requested?
Very good. Jimmy, Bridget, all in favor? Lovely. Good. Thanks. Okay, and Lori, congratulations again. Like really impressive, sincerely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move into the camera meeting, I have a question, and I really want to say something. I received an email which I forward to Chief and Lori and Chair. It's about the traffic issues in the Woodhaven and Cataraqui Wood district, and you guys has the details. May I request the police chief to have comments on that? What the people have to do in such issues or the difficulties where they have to approach, and what the police can do for the current issues that they have in that neighborhood.
Yes, thank you very much for bringing that forward. Very important for the public to know that on our website, you can do an online report. So if there's traffic issues or traffic concerns or anything like that, you can do an online report yourself if you'd like, and just fill out the details, and it gets sent directly to our traffic unit to be assigned and to be followed up on. And if people aren't comfortable with doing online reports, you can certainly call our non-emergency number, the 613-549-4660. And we have the front desk staff that can take the report and file it on their behalf. So that can be done as well. And that way it gets to our traffic unit, but then it also gets disseminated also to our frontline patrol officers as well, when they have some proactive time to look at their areas.
Okay, and also, is that possible if you can direct somebody to get contact with Mr. Paul or those people who witnessed those incidents to see what kind of issue they are seeing and how what we can do for it?
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so then may I have a motion to move in camera? Bridget? Jeff, very good. All in favor? Shall we say 5 minutes? Okay, we'll see you then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.